Hi everyone, I'm nonpolar, AP Biology teacher and creator of the Lab Hamster storylines. In this video, we are going to be talking about the different types of chemical bonds and how they relate to the properties of elements. So if you're getting ready for a test, or you're just curious to know how atoms get together to form compounds and molecules, this video is going to break it all down for you. So what are chemical bonds? Let's start out with some basics. Atoms are the smallest building blocks that stuff, or matter if you want to use the science term, is made out of. Atoms almost always make connections with other atoms by forming chemical bonds. These include metallic, ionic, and covalent bonds, but we really focus on ionic and covalent bonds in biology. So you might be wondering how atoms actually form bonds. It all comes down to what is going on with electrons. These are negatively charged particles that orbit the nucleus of an atom. The electrons in the outer shell of an atom are called valence electrons, and these electrons determine how the atom will form chemical bonds. Chemical bonds form so that atoms can achieve lower energy states, which makes them more stable. Since atoms with a full outer shell are more stable than an atom with a partially filled outer shell, bonding basically happens so that atoms can gain or lose electrons to achieve more stable, full ring arrangements of their electrons. There are two main types of chemical bonds you should understand for biology. Let's talk about ionic bonding first. Ionic bonds form when one atom gives electrons to another atom. This typically happens when a metal gives one or more electrons to a nonmetal. The classic example is when sodium gives one electron to chlorine. The sodium atom loses one electron to form a positive ion, and the chlorine forms a negative ion called chloride when it gains that electron. And since opposite charges attract, the sodium and chloride ions stick together, resulting in the formation of an ionic bond. The process forms a chemical compound called sodium chloride, but we usually just call it table salt. Now let's talk about covalent bonds. Covalent bonds form when two atoms share a pair of valence electrons. This type of bond forms when two atoms that are both nonmetals join together. We use the term molecule to describe groups of atoms that are held together by covalent bonds. Water molecules form as two atoms of hydrogen share electrons with one oxygen atom. Since hydrogen and oxygen atoms are both nonmetals, the bond that holds them together is a covalent bond. If two atoms have an equal strength pull on electrons, the electrons are shared equally between the two bonding atoms, and we call it a nonpolar covalent bond, like in a molecule of oxygen gas. Electronegativity is how we measure how strong of a pull an atom has on electrons. Higher electronegativity atoms like oxygen, fluorine, and nitrogen all have a very strong pull on electrons. If one atom has a stronger pull on electrons because it has a higher electronegativity, the electrons are pulled closer to that atom than the atom that has a weaker pull on the electrons. If the difference in electronegativity between two bonding atoms is more than 0.4, the bond is classified polar. The type of bonding of a chemical compound affects its properties. For example, ionic compounds like salt tend to form crystals and dissolve easily in water. Covalent compounds like water or carbon dioxide can be gases, liquids, or solids, and their properties depend on whether the bonds are polar or nonpolar. Now let's connect this to some real-life examples. Table salt, NaCl, helps regulate water levels in our bodies and cells. Water is essential for life, and its polar covalent bonds give it unique properties like high surface tension, high heat of vaporization, and the ability to dissolve many ionic and polar covalent substances. You'll learn more about the properties of water that make it critical for life later in Unit 1. Now let's do a quick recap. Atoms bond to achieve stable electron configurations. Ionic bonds involve electron transfer, while covalent bonds involve electron sharing. Electronegativity determines if a chemical bond involves electron sharing or transfer. If the difference is less than 0.4, the bond is nonpolar covalent with equal electron sharing. If the difference is between 0.4 and 2.0, the bond is polar covalent with unequal sharing. And if the difference is 2.0 or greater, the electrons are transferred from one atom to another, and the bond is classified as ionic. The type of bonding in a compound influences its properties. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video when we will explore the role of natural selection in creating adaptations that allow rock pocket mice and kangaroo rats to survive in the desert.